Hollywood loves to fool us, but sometimes the craziest illusions aren't monsters or explosions. They're the actors themselves. From de-aging legends to digitally fixing real-life problems, here are the wildest times CGI secretly changed what you saw on screen. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson isn't usually the kind of guy who needs CGI help, but Central Intelligence called for a very different version of him. In one hilarious flashback, Johnson appears as a teenage version of himself, soft, chubby, and dancing nude in a locker room. To make it believable, Weta FX used a body double, Vine star Sione Kalepi, to perform the dance. Then, through detailed facial scans and motion capture, they digitally grafted Johnson's face onto Kalepi's body, matching every grin and gesture. The result was a seamless and hilarious illusion, a de-aged, doughier Rock that proved even Hollywood's toughest man can laugh at himself. Dakota Johnson's most talked about scenes in 50 Shades of Grey weren't just intense, they were digitally enhanced. Because the movie relied so heavily on intimate moments, the effects team faced a strange post-production challenge. Johnson wore flesh-colored coverings during filming, but since her character's scenes required more realism, the visual effects crew had to digitally add a small patch of pubic hair afterward. It was one of the rare times CGI wasn't used to erase flaws or create explosions. It was used to add something that wasn't there. Even the film's cinematographer called it one of the strangest moments of his career. Nicolas Cage's passion for comic books nearly caused a visual headache for Ghost Rider. Long before starring as Johnny Blaze, Cage had already tattooed the character's fiery skull on his arm, a tribute that suddenly became a continuity problem once he became Ghost Rider himself. It wouldn't make sense for the hero to have his own logo inked on his bicep, so the visual effects team stepped in. Using CGI, they digitally erased the tattoo in every shirtless scene. Fans later speculated that his abs were also computer-generated, but his co-star Eva Mendes set the record straight. The muscles were real, only the tattoo wasn't. Robert De Niro didn't just act across 5 decades in The Irishman, he looked it, thanks to groundbreaking CGI. Director Martin Scorsese refused to recast younger versions of his leads, and De Niro refused to wear motion capture dots or headgear, so Industrial Light and Magic built brand new technology just for him. A special 3-camera rig that captured facial data without intrusive gear. The VFX team then meticulously de-aged De Niro frame by frame, adjusting every wrinkle, line, and expression to match his younger self. Combined with wigs and prosthetics for realism, the result let De Niro seamlessly play his character from age 30 to 80, no green dots required. Tron Legacy didn't just bring Jeff Bridges back, it brought back his younger self. Nearly 30 years after the original, Bridges played both the older Kevin Flynn and his digital double Clue, who looked like the actor from the 1980s. To make it happen, VFX supervisor Eric Barba used a groundbreaking 4-camera head rig that captured Bridges' every facial movement in 3D. The data was then used to build a fully digital, youthful version of his face, mapped onto his real performance. The result was a flawless, if slightly eerie, younger Bridges brought to life by pixels, perfectly fitting for a world ruled by computers. Captain Marvel pulled off one of Marvel's most impressive visual tricks, making Samuel L. Jackson look like his 1990s self for nearly the entire movie. Unlike brief flashbacks in other films, Nick Fury appears in almost every scene, so the VFX team at Lola Visual Effects had to de-age Jackson frame by frame. They studied his old roles in Jurassic Park and The Negotiator to perfectly recreate his younger face and skin tone. The challenge? Jackson barely has wrinkles, so artists had to focus on subtle muscle tone, skin texture, and jawline changes to rewind time convincingly. The result was a flawless digital transformation, a 25 years younger Fury brought back to life. Chris Evans didn't just bulk up to become Captain America, he also had to shrink down first. In Captain America: The First Avenger, the scrawny pre-serum Steve Rogers was one of Marvel's most complex digital illusions. The visual effects team at Lola didn't just paste Evans' face onto another actor, they digitally slimmed down his entire body in most scenes. Every shot was filmed 3 times, once with Evans, once with his smaller body double, and once with an empty set for clean compositing. The hardest part? His huge arms. In profile shots, they blocked 1/3 of his body, forcing the team to digitally rebuild parts of his shirts frame by frame. When Bryan Cranston returned as Walter White in El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, fans were thrilled, but his look wasn't as simple as slipping back into character. At the time, Cranston was performing on Broadway and couldn't shave his head for the role, even though Walter's bald head is iconic. The quick fix, a bald cap, didn't look convincing enough for close-up shots. So the VFX team stepped in, digitally erasing his hair and refining his scalp frame by frame to make him look perfectly bald again. What seemed like a simple diner scene ended up becoming one of the film's most quietly complex CGI achievements. Kurt Russell's return to his 1980s glory days in Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 was a masterclass in movie magic. The opening flashback shows him looking like his Big Trouble in Little China era, but that youthful glow wasn't just makeup. While Russell credited his longtime makeup artist and a great wig, director James Gunn revealed the real secret: CGI. Using Lola visual effects, the team filmed Russell first, then had a younger actor mimic every move. In post-production, artists digitally overlaid the young actor's skin onto Russell's performance, blending the two seamlessly. The process took months, but the result was uncanny: a digitally de-aged Russell who looked decades younger. Jeremy Renner's comedy tag took a painful turn behind the scenes. Just 2 days into filming, Renner broke both arms while performing a stunt that went wrong, jumping onto a collapsing stack of chairs, but instead of halting production, he kept filming, moving his arms like a robot through the pain. The VFX team later had to step in, digitally replacing one of his arms for a key shot, the very scene where the accident happened, as he tosses donuts at Ed Helms. Despite the injury, Renner pushed through, proving he didn't need a bow and arrow to be a real-life action hero. When Luke Skywalker reappeared in The Mandalorian, fans were stunned. He looked exactly like he had in Return of the Jedi, but that wasn't movie magic from the Force. It was cutting-edge CGI. Mark Hamill returned to set in full costume to film his movements, but a younger actor, Max Lloyd-Jones, performed many of the close-up scenes industrial light and magic, then used advanced deepfake technology to digitally map Hamill's 1980s face onto the younger double. The result was a near-perfect recreation of a 25-year-old Luke, bridging decades of Star Wars history and proving that, in a galaxy far, far away, age really is just data. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman might have been saving the world, but behind the scenes, she was also expecting one. During reshoots for Patty Jenkins' first Wonder Woman film, Gadot was 5 months pregnant and her baby bump wasn't exactly part of the script. To make it work, the costume team cut a hole in her suit around her stomach and filled it with green fabric, letting the VFX crew digitally flatten her belly in post-production. In close-ups, she looked every bit the superhero, but in wider shots, Gadot joked she looked like Wonder Woman pregnant with Kermit the Frog. Even superheroes need a little CGI help sometimes. Claire Danes managed to keep her Homeland character perfectly in character, even while she was pregnant in real life. During filming for Season 2, Danes was expecting her first child but insisted that Carrie Mathison stay fervently non-pregnant. To pull it off, the production team used body doubles, strategic camera angles, and CGI to digitally erase her growing baby bump in post-production. Danes filmed right up to 6 weeks before giving birth, including intense scenes where she was kidnapped and chained in freezing conditions. The digital magic worked. Audiences never suspected that behind the chaos on screen, Danes was 7 months pregnant.